Time now for Eye on Africa. I'm Tom Burgess-Watson. Our top stories today. No end in sight. The 5-week-long strike by Kenya's nurses continues as the deal between the unions and the government hits a roadblock. That deal remains unsigned. A helping hand. We're going to tell you all about a new app which makes it easier for people to obtain genuine medicines, not the fakes, flooding the African continent. And the big birds return after being poached to near extinction in Mali. Wild ostriches are on track for a comeback. Coming up, an exclusive France 24 report. Welcome to the programme. We're going to begin in Kenya, where for 5 weeks now, medical services across the country have been affected by a strike being carried out by the National Union of Nurses. They're demanding a pay rise, and although a deal was reached between the unions and government representatives, the deal remains unsigned after hitting an unexpected roadblock. France 24's Shirley Sitbon explains.
It's no use trying to beep them. Kenya's nurses are off duty. For the 5th week in a row, they haven't treated their patients. Nurses are demanding salary hikes. Their unions have already negotiated a deal with county governors, but that collective bargaining agreement called CBA was torn apart by a state commission which says it's too expensive.
We must be demonstrating here every Monday. We are very much ready to go on duty because our patients are suffering. But the CPA had been concluded. Therefore, we don't need to renegotiate once again.
Nurses' union leaders say they rather go to jail than back to the negotiating table.
Nurses negotiated for a collective bargaining agreement. If jailing the officials is what will realize the respect for the nurses of this country, then so be it.
Prison, that's where doctors' union leaders were sent a few months ago due to their mass strikes. After 100 days out of work, doctors had their salary hike deal signed and implemented. Nurses don't see why they should give up. They had long fought for higher salaries, and their workload has largely increased in recent years. The government had hoped to cap salaries to invest more in development projects, boost the economy and fight unemployment, which has soared to 40%. To set an example, the government cut on Monday top official salaries, including the president's. A move taken less than a month before the planned date of the election, which President Uhuru Kenyatta hopes to win.
Now, the main opposition party in the Democratic Republic of Congo has reacted furiously to an announcement by senior officials that elections might not be held this year. The opposition called the delay a provocation, said it's part of a ploy to keep President Joseph Kabila in power. Well, in line with a New Year transitional deal, 46-year-old Kabila was allowed to remain in office until elections in late 2017. Let's listen in now to how the opposition leader, Felix Tshisekedi, is reacting.
The
head of the Electoral Commission just said the election wouldn't be held this year without giving any specifics. This leaves the door wide open for Joseph Kabila, who doesn't want the elections to be held so he can stay in power as long as possible. For us, the 31st of December is his last day. After that, we don't want to see him or hear him at the head of the country.
And that was the head of the opposition speaking there. Well, the United Nations has added its voice to the matter, expressing concerns about the fact that that deal struck in the DRC at New Year's, which aimed to pave the way for a peaceful transition, is not being respected. There's also talk of sanctions. Let's listen now to what the French ambassador to the United Nations had to say.
The agreement is the sole credible roadmap for an exit to the crisis. For this reason, a lack of consensus and the systematic deadlocks in its implementation are of particular concern. Elections must be held in fewer than 6 months, and the clock is ticking. The
French ambassador to the UN speaking there. Now, in the latest of his growing political woes, South Africa's Communist Party, a key ally of the ruling ANC, says that President Jacob Zuma is banned from addressing its Congress this week. This will be the first time that Zuma, who took office in 2009, has not addressed the event. Well, amidst mounting allegations of corruption against him, the party has become increasingly critical of the embattled president, calling on him to step aside. The Ugandan music star Robert Kyagulanyi, who's also known as Bobby Wine, took the oath of office today in Kampala as he was sworn in as the Member of Parliament for a constituency which lies just to the east of the capital. Well, that's after he ran as an independent candidate in a by-election, seeing off 4 other candidates and taking more than 75% of the vote. 35-year-old Wine has, for a number of years, been a vocal voice on political issues there in Uganda. Now, expired and counterfeit medicines are rife in many countries across the African continent. The dangers they pose are numerous, ranging from having no effects whatsoever to having deadly side effects. Well, with that in mind, one Senegalese entrepreneur has launched a new app, which, amongst other things, helps consumers tell the difference between genuine articles and the fakes.
At this health centre in Senegal, it's the patients themselves who are restocking the shelves. A new mobile phone app called Jokkosanté rewards patients who return unused medication, giving them points to purchase different drugs later on.
Before, I had lots of problems buying medication, but now it's easier for me to get them.
This pilot project was launched in 2015 by a Senegalese entrepreneur trying to fight waste in a country where many can't afford medicine. The project also guards against fake drugs.
They give us their prescription and we verify it. Is it really a prescription given out by a doctor or a nurse? And we also check the expiration date and the state of the medicine.
Over half of Senegal's population lacks health insurance, and the uninsured are more likely to be tempted by cheap counterfeit drugs. These often simply fail to work, and at worst, they can prove fatal. Across sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, 1 in 3 medicines are estimated to be fakes.
These counterfeit medicines are usually bought by those who are most vulnerable, those who don't have the money because they're sold at a lower price. Now we're enabling those people to have access to better medicines. We're certainly helping in the fight against counterfeit drugs.
For those who can't afford to buy drugs, the Jokkosanté app also allows brands to sponsor drug purchases. That system is being piloted in a children's hospital near Dakar, while the government is considering the whole Jokkosanté system for a national rollout.
Now, just over a decade ago, ostriches ran wild in Mali, but now, following on from years of relentless poaching, the big birds have almost completely disappeared. However, there is some sort of happy ending to this story. One of Mali's richest businessmen has started the only ostrich farm in the country, and he wants to reintroduce them back into the wild. A France 24 team has this report.
These strange little creatures are baby ostriches. A dozen of them hatch every day at this breeding farm. Just a week ago, this little chick was still in its shell.
This is an incubator. We built it ourselves. It's still in the testing phase. You see here, there are babies who've just come out.
After spending 3 months in the hatcher at Kledu farm, Madou and Amidou take over. As the ostriches grow in size, so do their appetites. The birds are taken good care of by the 2 men, who know all too well how profitable these birds can be.
With ostriches, nothing is lost. Everything has a use. The meat has less cholesterol, you can use the feathers for many things, and the skin is more expensive than the skin of a crocodile.
Nearly every part of the ostrich has commercial value. More than 3,000 are bred here. And to train the Malian breeders, ostrich experts from North Korea have been flown in especially to Kledu farm. They have their own special methods.
Other noises frighten them. They get scared. When they're afraid, ostriches run all over the place. They can break their feet. If that happens, we'll have to close the farm. The music calms them down and reduces accidents.
The farm's owner visits every Sunday. He hopes to release the country's first farm-bred ostriches into the wild within 4 years.
It's a happy note for us to end this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching. Stay with us here on France 24.
Reporters, presented by Mark Owen.
Jaroslaw Kaczynski, leader of Poland's Law and Justice Party, is a maverick. On civil rights, justice and the environment, Poland is increasingly breaking away from European community rules. The paradox is that public opinion, which has benefited from tens of billions of euros in aid from Brussels, is massively pro-European. It's a paradox the Polish people have to live with every day. Despite warnings and threats of sanctions from the EU, the Law and Justice Party carries on regardless.
Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.